You saw why, even with LeBron James on the team, Kyrie was the closer in Cleveland. And what was most impressive is he did it with Jimmy Butler on him. And that defense was good. Like that shake and bake, turnaround, mid-range shot in the paint. You couldn't have played better defense than Butler did. A lot of the Celtics' problems right now, or up to this point, have been, it's not his fault, but they have been because of Kyrie, the difference in style. Like last year, they were an equal opportunity offense without him moving the ball.
Yes.
He's an ISO guy. He's going to take a lot of shots and all that. But come playoff time, they will need him. And last year, I don't think they needed it as much because the East wasn't as good. And outside of Cleveland, it really wasn't a good conference. This year, with Toronto, Milwaukee, Philadelphia being improved, they're going to need somebody that can just take over at the end of games. And their combination, I believe, of Brad Stevens' great coaching, the other players, intelligent play, and Kyrie's one-on-one ability still could get them out of the Eastern Conference.
Yes, it definitely can. But ultimately, Brad Stevens, he's got to be able to change with this massive amount of talent that he has. So, to me, part of the problem is Brad changing, because the only thing that's really changed for them, they brought everyone back except Gordon and Kyrie. Typically, the most two talented players, and players with Gordon Hayward being one of the most versatile players. You would think that I'm going to add these two and it's just going to build. No, they have struggled, and it's about style. How Brad wants to coach. Brad likes to control the game. Kyrie has a feel for the game. He has a feel for running his own thing, and he can get his own shot. Kyrie don't need you to call a play. Right. Oh, he can either take you off the bounce or call someone for a pick and roll and build to get his shot off that way. So it's going to be let's see going forward. Let's see who wins out. Or is Kyrie? Because I don't believe Kyrie can change at this point in his career. And I believe Brad Stevens is going to have to make some adjustments for them to be able to reach their potential. But him shining the way he did, it speaks to one of your points, Nick, because you were worried about this. Because I think Boston can represent the East in the finals. And Nick said, well, when they played the 76ers, they played Toronto. Who's going to be the best player on the court? Well, yesterday, Kyrie. If he's able to play that level, he can do that against Toronto or anyone else in the East.
And most of the season, except for maybe the first 10 games, he's been the best player.
Well, he's certainly been the best player on the Celtics. I don't think to Chris's point, I think throughout the year, Kawhi or Giannis or Embiid have been having better seasons. But last night wasn't the case. Last night, though, what was the case is this. The same thing that happened in that damn playoff series last year, where 3 games come down to the end. And that was Boston without Kyrie. Boston can close. Now, last year they did it through sideline out-of-bounds plays after timeout plays because they didn't have Kyrie to do it offensively. And the other team has no idea what they're doing at the end of games. Listen, I like Brett Brown, and I think his ability to weather the storm of the process, a lot of coaches would have melted down. A lot of coaches wouldn't have just wanted, I'm going to have 60 lost seasons on my resume year after year. And clearly he's liked within that organization. But if with a timeout and 16 seconds left, you don't call it, and the play you get is a Ben Simmons, J.J. Redick dribble handoff, then what are you there for?
Right.
Because that Kyrie bucket against Jimmy Butler, where I agree with you, I thought Butler played excellent defense. I thought Kyrie took a very difficult shot. He just made it because he's a special player who was having a tremendous game. You're tied. You're fine. You're tied with the ball, less than 24 seconds to go. You're not necessarily going to win that game, but you got to get a good shot. This is a contested J.J. Redick long two. When Jimmy Butler's playing well, when Embiid's doing what he's doing, Jimmy Butler's on the weak side of the court, never even involved in the play. That's what killed Philly last year. What do you do at the end of games? They added Jimmy Butler, so they had the answer to that, and they didn't use that advantage in this spot.
But isn't that on Brett Brown?
That's my point.
Yeah.
Like that's on coaching at the end of the games.
No, there's no question. I thought the same thing. It looked like last year's playoff series where Philly could have won that thing 4-1 if they knew how to play in the clutch. I think a lot of it's on Brett Brown, who is a good coach, but at the end of games, they look lost. They had 7 turnovers in the fourth quarter and overtime last night. Boston had 9 for the entire game. Some of it, though, is Ben Simmons not being any threat, because a lot of times he's coming down and you want him to create something, and you know he's not going to shoot.
This is the thing, too. you have to put some of the responsibility. I hate just blaming the coach because it's obvious their team philosophy was in this game-winning situation, we're not going to call a timeout. They gave the ball to Ben Simmons because they believe he's going to have the ability to be able to start the play. He doesn't have that ability. And sometime when you have a guy who you think is going to be a superstar, you start doing things that's not what's best for the team, but what's best for him. And Ben Simmons' lack of it, and I'm going to stay on this until
it's not true.
It's always going to be true. He's going to be a guy that's going to go through his career and can't shoot the basketball. Like, shooting the basketball.
So you don't think he's going to improve?
Why should I think so?
Well, what I'm being told, he hadn't worked on it.
Right.
That's the, like, I don't know if he's going to get to a place of embarrassment or something where he's just going to decide I'm going to work on it. But you're right. If he don't work on it.
I'm not going to appropriate player development just for guys because a guy has some type of skill. You're going to either have to show me or tell me that there's a plan to this guy getting better. Shooting the basketball is the hardest skill in the NBA of all the things. It's not dribbling. It's not scoring in the post. It's shooting the basketball consistently. We've had player after player NBA say, man, you have to shoot thousands upon thousands upon thousands of shots. So I'm not going to appropriate that because I know how hard it is. Obviously, this is his what season?
This is technically his third year.
Okay, it's his third year in the NBA. What's the problem? You don't have no classes to go to. Your responsibility every day is just to get better as a player. Pick out your weaknesses and work on them. And obviously, he's not doing enough work that is not transferred over to a game situation.
And that's what, to me, what you said is what's so disappointing, because I did appropriate some of that to him, because I do think the best players in this league every year in the offseason try to add something to their game at this phase in their career. We've seen Embiid do it, saw Giannis do it, seen Anthony Davis do it. And to me, Ben Simmons was not only because of the #1 overall pick, but also because what I saw from him the moment he got to the NBA, I'm like, okay, that's the trajectory he's on.
Right.
To be in MVP discussions.
What I saw was a guy who has a unique skill set. He was a big guy who could dribble the ball and had the ability to be able to pass it. But he is not a point guard. He does not know how to run a team. And it's obvious in 3 years, he does not know how to develop a shot. He still gets in midair and decide, I don't know if I'm going to shoot it left-handed or right-handed. His free throw shooting is poor. So I just have not seen it, and I refuse to appropriate that type of belief just because a guy is 6'9" and can dribble.
But the point I was trying to make, see, is that but after last year, which, yeah, it was his second year in the NBA, but his first year playing in the NBA, I looked at his game and I said, if I'm Ben Simmons, if anyone around Ben Simmons, what's the thing he works on this summer? Some jump shot, some mid-range shot. And even if he didn't have it figured out in the summer, because you can't, to come back to where it looks like, oh, now he's willing to shoot a 12-footer. And that's what's been disappointing for me is he looks like, and you've actually talked to some people, so you know better than me, he looks like a guy who didn't work on it this summer, who this summer didn't spend time improving that part of his game. I couldn't have predicted that. Like you did, that's credit to you.
Isn't that on the team? I don't know.
No, that's on him.
It's not on the team?
It's on him. He is, the offseason is his time, and he's supposed to be in the gym doing something to improve his game. He's the same guy he was last year, which is a really good player, but a very limited player with one enormous deficiency.
They have, and I'll say this quickly, the maturation both physically and mentally of Embiid and Simmons is how far this team's going to go. Right now, they have a long way to go in terms of maturation. And they probably won't get there this year, and they're going to be disappointing again. He can carry them to the Western Conference Finals. They're one of 4 teams. We know Golden State's getting there.
Right.
I think there are 3 other teams that are going to fight for that spot in the Western Conference Finals. Oklahoma City, Houston, and the Lakers.
So Nuggets, forget you.
Nuggets haven't made the playoffs in 5 years. I don't think you go from that to the Western Conference Finals, not in the West. I think they, are a good team. They're tough, and, they're going to be a force to be reckoned with in the future. But I don't see that. I think with LeBron and then Harden in Houston and Paul George and Westbrook, and they're playing well, in Oklahoma City, I think they'll have an edge in the playoffs. So, yeah, Harden, I think he can lead them to the conference finals. They can't beat Golden State. No. 2 encouraging things recently. They've won 7 of 8, okay? They had gone, I think, 0-9 dating back to last year without Chris Paul. The last 2 games they won without Chris over good teams, San Antonio, which was playing well, and Oklahoma City. And then during that stretch, their defense has really improved.
Yes.
Their defense has picked it up. So those are good signs.
What the Rockets have been, up until these last 2.5 weeks, the most disappointing team in the league.
Yeah.
But it hasn't been because of number 13. James Harden this year, for the year, not during the stretch, this year, 32, 6, and 8. That's crazy. 32 points a game while averaging 8 assists. Now, during the stretch, in the last 7, he's averaging 47 and 9. And the part about that I guarantee you Daryl Morey and the Houston Brain Trust most excited about, he's doing that averaging 13 three-point attempts a game and 13 free throw attempts a game. Like, that's one hell of a way to play basketball. It's a James Harden way to play basketball, and it makes him essentially unguardable. Now, the rest of the team is starting to come along for the ride, even despite the Chris Paul injury. I think the Rockets are similar to Cris in a position where the Lakers are, which is, what is their peak? Their peak is until they see the Warriors in the playoffs. Like, it depends on what side of the bracket you're on in the West. Like, but the Rockets, they have shown you, at least they've shown me, what they can do at their best. And Harden has shown that he is not at a different phase of his career. Harden's the same guy he's been the last 5 years.
Chris Paul.
Unlike Chris Paul, absolutely. And so, I mean, Harden has been spectacular, and all of a sudden, on the course of the year, it's like, oh, now they're up to the 5th-ranked offense in basketball. After last year being top 2 at the beginning of the year, they were outside of the top 15. The offense is getting back. The defense is not back yet, except for the last couple games. But, yeah, I mean, if Harden's going to give you this offensively, your ceiling's about as high as anybody in the West outside of Golden State.
Yeah, they're not going to be the defensive team they were last year. That's not even in reach of what they can do. This would be my concern, not to rain on you guys' parade and everything, but Harden's playing at an unbelievable level. He's playing at a pace also I don't think he can continue without the lack of help that they have on the team. Because Chris Paul, this is not going to be his last injury of the year.
Correct.
They got 49 more games. So you think Chris Paul, when he comes back, he's not going to miss more time? No, he is going to miss more time. So can Harden do this for 49 more games? And the reason why he's got to do it for 49 more games, would you say their seed is right now?
Right now, they're the 7th seed.
Right now. And for them to stay, because they played so bad, he's got to keep playing at a high level for the seeding. So if they go in as one of the bottom seeds, how are they going to make it to the conference? Because they're going to face one of the big dogs early, and they can face Golden State before the finals. So for me, what I'm worried about is overall durability. He's playing at a level that I don't think the pace that he can keep. And I know their other superstar in Chris Paul, he's going to miss time. Let's not forget, today is December 26th. All right? The playoffs is a long time away. And for him to be able to maintain that level, because he holds the ball more than anyone in the NBA. From the time he gets it to either he decides to either shoot it or get assists, there's no one so there's no way for them to run their offense. Yeah, they could be in the top 5, but they have to do it through him. It's exhausting to play that style of basketball.
And that may be why it may be nerves or it may be fatigue. But in the playoffs, we've seen him fizzle because there's so much pressure on him. I was saying yesterday watching the game with my father, and Harden is not a ball hog, okay? This is what they ask him to do.
Yes.
But the way they play when Harden, basically with Harden out there, is like you at the Y.
Yes.
Playing with a ball hog.
Yes.
Like,
all you do is
everybody else just spreads out.
3 and 4 pick and rolls. To be able to get the type of matchup, if he gets the 5, the opposing 5 on him, like he's going to work.
It's one of the reasons why I thought a couple of years ago when all those vines were going around about the compilations of his bad defense, I thought it was, particularly before they got Chris Paul, unfair because nobody was asked to do more on one side of the ball. He was leading the league in minutes. He was playing every single game for a couple years in a row, and he had the ball in his hand more than anybody in the sport. If you're going to ask him to do all that, he can either rest on the bench and play fewer minutes, or he's going to have to rest on the court. Now, some of those defensive moments I know were laughably bad, but some of them were he's resting while playing because they need him out there for every single offensive possession. Last little thing with the Rockets, let's not forget, they offered 4 first-round picks for Jimmy Butler. Those first-round picks didn't go away. Daryl knows that wherever Chris Paul is now, he ain't getting better. that this year and next year is the window for this team, I would expect the Rockets to at least attempt at the deadline to make a major acquisition. That's another reason why I think they have maybe more upside than the first 35 games of the season have shown.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from First Things First, or go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.